Hi everyone, I am Martina Cunha and you're listening to Backstage Talk. Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of Backstage Talk. Today I am really excited to have over someone that I not only admire a lot, but I can also call her my friend. I have here with me Micayla Brewster. She is a freelance social media manager who oversees the digital presence of brands within the world of arts and culture. Her past and current clients range from musicals to museums, books to brands, podcasts to performers, films to forums on advocacy, just to name a few. She is a former account manager at Marathon Digital, where she led innovative social media campaigns such for shows such as Hamilton, Hadestown, Be More Chill, and Freestyle Love Supreme. Honestly, Micayla had my dream job.
Me too.
Listening. I know I've applied this a couple of times, but I will keep doing it. But I have the honor of having the incredible Micayla Brewster at the show. I first knew about her thanks to Page to Stage, so shout out to Brian and Mary for her episode on their podcast show. So, Micayla, I am so excited to have you here. How are you?
I am fantastic. My day was already going great, and then your face is now in front of me, so I'm just thrilled.
Oh, thank you so much. So, first thing I want to ask you is who are you besides being a digital nomad, besides working in social media in the arts and entertainment world? What else can you tell us about you?
Who am I? Isn't that what we're all trying to ask? Yeah, I think first and foremost, I'm somebody who just like loves creativity and I love like thinking outside of the box. And so I think in everything that I do, I just try to find the most creativity in that. And so because of that, I have found myself in an industry such as Broadway, where I get to work with some of the most talented people in the entire world, on stage, off stage, all over. And also in the specific industry of social media management, which I see as really just like an opportunity for boundless creativity because you everyone is given this one, these platforms and
Yes.
these same things that we can do, and the ways that everyone uses it is so different and constantly evolving and constantly inspiring me and the content that I want to create. And so I have answered your question within the framework of my job, which is a great segue into the rest of me, because yeah, that was one thing. Like I think during the pandemic, when I was working on all of those shows and I was having all these amazing experiences working at Marathon Digital. Um, I and then I kind of was reframing my life, thinking through what kind of pivot I might want to make. And one of the big questions I was asking myself was like, who are you if you are not working, if you are not, behind a phone and paying attention to all of that. And I think that was one of the main reasons why I really wanted to embrace this digital nomad lifestyle and find things outside of work that inspired me and gave me creativity. And so, yeah, I think like being able to explore different cultures and see the intersections between like things that I relate to and get to kind of like feel at home in this like place that I am not from,
Mhm.
but then also feel like super not a part of a culture and feel very different and have all of those experiences. It's like, I don't know, again, it just feels like this widening of a perspective, and that's all I ever want to do. So I think that's me. I still kind of
Yes.
talked about my work and being digital nomad, but that's, yeah, pretty much that
But
takes up most of my days.
I love that. I love that. So, what would be a random fun fact about you?
Ooh, okay. This I love to pull this one out because I actually, it gets even better if you're able to see the photo that I have of it. But Steve Jobs attended my birthday party as in my childhood. Yeah, and so I I kind of like knew this. So basically, his daughter was in my Girl Scout troop, and so she was invited to my birthday party, and so then he came and dropped her off and picked her up and whatever. And I'm sure he wasn't there long. I have no idea the actual story because I was 8 or whatever, but um, yeah, he there is a photo that I found of him in the background of like me with like the cake and stuff, and he's in a black turtleneck and everything. It's just like the most Steve Jobs. So yeah, I'm from the Bay Area and from Palo Alto, so that yeah, that's my fun fact.
And yeah, I can imagine little Micayla in front of the cake and Steve Jobs in the back just randomly posing, just like being like, hi.
I know, it's like comical. It's really funny. I'll send you the the photo afterwards.
I love that. I love that. So let's get into the specifics of your work in social media and marketing in theater and Broadway. So, which was your aha moment in which you decided that this was the industry that you wanted to work on?
Yeah. I mean, so my story is a little different from most of my theater colleagues who I've talked to, because, and I think this is telling and probably a reason why I have stuck around and why it's clear that everybody wants to work in this industry. But I have met so many people who it's been like, my dream is to work in theater. My dream is to work on Broadway. I will not do anything. I will do whatever it needs to do. You know, I'll sweep the floors. I will just let me be involved. And, you know, I think that is not something that happens a lot of the time, you know, and so it's very clear that that's a quality, you know, a very special community that's gathered. And so I come more from the marketing social media space. I have always loved entertainment and pop culture, although my friends will laugh at me and there are plenty of gaps in pop culture knowledge that I've got. But I have always really enjoyed that side of things. And I guess being from California, Hollywood was always a little bit more on my mind. And
Yeah.
so I kind of thought that film or television and marketing was going to be my intersection. And so through college, that was where I kind of was headed. And then it wasn't until I like went on a trip to New York and um, saw a show, Something Rotten, and just like absolutely loved it. Followed their social media, thought it was so cute. I had also like my roommate at the time, she was kind of bringing me into the musical theater world a bit more. She introduced me to Hamilton. She introduced me to some of like my first shows that I you know was streaming the cast album over and over again, and we'd like sing it in our apartment in college and stuff. And so slowly I became a fan of more like recent musical theater pieces. And so through that, when I had an opportunity in New York to do an internship, but found out that was only part time, I was like, okay, I like need to fill my time with something else. So what, you know, what could that be? And I got it in my mind, you know, maybe Broadway shows, maybe I could help there. And so I sent a Facebook message to Something Rotten explaining how I enjoyed their strategy and I thought they were doing such a great job and I loved their show. And if they needed any extra help, I was coming to the city this summer. If they needed anything, and included my LinkedIn and to prove I was a real person and sent it off. But then copied that same message, tweaked it for Hamilton because I was even bigger of a fan, obviously, of that. And it was like, yeah, peak like Hamilton time, I think 2015. And so I yeah, was just like assuming that the smaller show would maybe be the opportunity. But the next day, I had an answer from Hamilton in my inbox on Facebook saying that they were interested in setting up an interview, and so that kind of brought me into the world of theater. And since then, it's just been like every person that I interact with, being able to be a part of such a tight knit and small community, just makes it, I think, so much easier to like progress in your career because there's
Mhm.
so many more chances to really just like step up and do it. And I love looking around and seeing a lot of the like leaders in the industry start to be like my friends and like, you know, people our age. And so it's just, it feels like a place of like boundless opportunity. In a lot of ways, there's a lot of change that needs to happen in order to make that true for everybody. But I have found it to be nothing but a supportive and amazing community to develop my career in. And so I'm thrilled to be a part of it now.
I love that. And I love that you brought up that it was thanks to your roommate, because little did they know
I
they were
know.
nurturing this huge fan of musical theater. I love that.
Well, the best part is like then I got to thank her in like the best way possible, because then I got to go. She came with me to Puerto Rico for Hamilton's opening night there. We let's see where we got to go to the LA opening, and we like walked backstage with my boss at the time, and we all of a sudden like Lynn passes to our left, and I'm just like, Lindsay, breathe, 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 it's okay. So it was nice to be able to over the years pay her back for just actually completely changing my life. So
I love that. I love that. I would have totally freaked out. Like, for everyone, when I met Micayla back in Broadway Con 2022, I remember we were in the green room, and all of a sudden, this huge Broadway stars that I looked up to started entering the room, and I was like, Micayla, Micayla, Micayla. And
she's
she
like,
was like,
Martine, it's okay,
breathe. Yeah,
we're
yeah,
good,
it's
we're good.
okay. Get used to it. Let me introduce you to them. And I was like, okay. That was really fun. And yeah, it was a really good experience. And that's why I got to meet a lot of people I really look up to in this industry in that green room. And we were like having lunch together with
I
everyone. I was just like, okay, yeah, this may be my life from now on.
know.
Okay, I'm good.
But that's honestly what I love is the fact, like, and I don't know this to be the case because I didn't end up going down the path of, you know, kind of the LA Hollywoodish sort of thing, but I don't think that I would have worked on a TV show and ran their social media for 3 years and felt fully a part of the team and known every single person, every single fact about every single actor, everything, right? And dedicated my life to this account. I bet if I were sitting in a green room with any of the actors, I don't know if they would have, they might have, they might not have, but I just think that because Broadway is so community oriented, because everyone has to work so closely, it
Yeah.
just creates this space where you will develop more of a relationship with cast members. That was one thing that I never really even thought about being a part of my life, is actually getting to know the people on the stage, and that has been a wonderful, wonderful part of all of
I love that. So let's trace it a little bit back on your
it.
journey, because you started with an internship at Marathon, and then everything like blew up. So
Mhm.
let's go a little bit back to that time and what you did with Marathon. So you ran a lot of campaigns for shows like Hamilton. You just mentioned you were to Puerto Rico and the LA opening night, but also Hades Town and Be More Chill and Freestyle Love Supreme. So how was that whole experience like?
Yeah. It was amazing. I absolutely love all every single moment that I got to spend at Marathon. You know, I got a chance to work on things way earlier in my career than I think I would have, and on projects way bigger than I ever could have dreamed of, and was completely trusted to do so. And it allowed me to gain a lot of confidence in myself and to um, also do it in an environment where the quality of the social content was most important. It wasn't necessarily about like what's the easiest way to get from point A to point B. Although there were moments
Mhm.
where you're like, all right, let's take a step back. Like, do we need to do all of this? You know, sometimes we were a little extra, but what the reason why I value that is because when you enter an environment where it's like, how can we do the coolest thing? How can we make the biggest splash? How can we like, make the most noise? that is going to be an environment where, again, all the creativity is going to be welcome, and where we are going to bend over backwards to try to get a cool thing done. And so it allowed me to learn how to dream bigger in brainstorms, and to think through larger pieces. So it's like, if you're thinking through day-to-day social content, there's only a certain amount of thinking forward that you have to do. But when you're starting to talk through like content shoots or month-long campaigns or big partnerships or some of these like really big things that I got to work on towards the end of my time there, that's exercising a lot more pieces of your brain and a lot more things that now I have found myself, as a freelancer, faced with, hey, we need this problem solved. Can you do this? We want this to be achieved. Can you do this? And I now have an attitude of like, yes, I can, because there have been so many times when I had no idea how to do a thing, but I figured it out. And so, and each time you do that, then you just gain the muscles that, the next time those bits are easier, and it allows you to then extend yourself even further in a different direction and grow there. And so, yeah, I absolutely loved every second there, and it's definitely formed, my social media strategy and who I am as a social media manager.
It's incredible, and that shows, like, working closely to you, you really are a problem solver. And with everything that we've done together, it's always thinking about being better, going a little bit bigger, as you said, a little bit extra,
Yeah.
but always like trying to bring the quality content to the people. And I absolutely love that. What would you say is the best way to create a compelling social media strategy in this industry?
Yeah. Um, So I would say the number one thing and the most important thing for anybody is figuring out like your brand, and so that includes who are you, and what is it that you say, what is it that you have to offer, but then also thinking through like who is it that you're speaking to, and what is the relationship that you have, like what is it that you're offering to them or that they're offering to you, and like kind of literally thinking through a brand as a person. Like I will write a description, give them personality traits, and say things that they will say or won't say, that they will do, that they won't do, and flesh out this person, because I find it much easier to navigate social media when you have this character in your head that is, that account. And so, number one, it's most important to know who you are. And then the second part, this is where I think it's a lot of like planning and kind of like
Mhm.
brainstorming, throwing out a lot of different ideas and trying them all, and understanding that some are going to fail, and that is okay, because that is information that you're gathering, and some are going to do great, and that is also great because you are gathering information and you get all the extra engagements. And so the more that you figure out the intersection between who you are and the social platform, which I'd say that's actually first most important, because, you know, if you come up with the best idea, but it doesn't fit onto what people are doing on TikTok or on Twitter or on Instagram, then that's not going to mesh. So first be thinking through how people are already using the platform, and then be thinking through the intersection between your brand, and your audience, and how and which pieces of content they're responding best to. So between like, what the algorithm, and also I've got lots of thoughts on the algorithm and chasing all of that, and it's too exhausting. Just take a
Yes.
breath and just make good content. But you have to keep a little bit of that in mind. But really, the most important thing is finding the most authentic um, connection, and the one that resonates the most with your audience. And then once you find that out, dissect some of the qualities and say, okay, I know that my audience really likes to share. They have a lot of opinions. They want to talk. So I'm going to give them ways to do that, because I know that that's what they like to do. Or it could be they just really love looking at pretty pictures. And so I'm going to, maybe creating a lot of video content doesn't work for, that is possible, even though the algorithm, blah, blah, blah. So I think it's important to be testing, trying everything, and then constantly pivoting based off of how people respond.
That is great advice for not only for me as a social media manager, but also for everyone out there, because you don't need a brand, you don't need a big, huge project to implement this stuff that you just mentioned into whatever you're doing on social media, even your own personal profiles and accounts. Um, so I love that. Thank you for that. How would you summarize this whole journey in the industry?
Oh my goodness.
Those three words. Oh my goodness.
End of sentence, end of podcast. No, truly, like, I think maybe that, because I think it feels like, for me, I don't know how many acts are in my musical of my journey, but there was a moment where I did think that, act one was coming to a close, and that it could have been a one act show. When I left Marathon and decided to go and be a digital nomad and be a freelancer on my own, there was a very long process of internal, like, dialogue of being like, okay, I have to understand that I might never fit back into the industry in the same way that I am used to as an individual, and not being a part of an agency anymore. And so I have to understand that I may not, yeah, it's going to feel different. I'm going to have different clients, and that's okay. Um, and what has just been absolutely wonderful, and the surprise second act, and why I say I have no idea how many acts are ahead of me, but I have loved being able to come back and feel sometimes even more a part of it, even more integrated into it, because it was clear that that it wasn't something that was tied to just one job, but that I truly am a part of the community. And so that has been a really, really wonderful feeling. And I've only felt that way more and more and more as time has gone by. And so I'm excited to see how, as my career develop. I am 27. I've got more career to go, and so I don't know what's next, but I'm really, really excited, because yeah, again, this is the best, like, little incubation environment to be able to grow, and nurture my career. And so yeah.
And I know that whatever comes down your path, it's going to be amazing, because with knowing working with you and knowing your talent, I know that it's going to be great.
Oh,
Just because your energy and the passion that you put into the things that you work on, um, it just is inspiring, and it's mind blowing with the things that you do. And I know that whatever comes is going to be absolutely amazing.
oh my gosh, you are. I love you. Thank you.
What advice would you give someone that wants to be in this industry from your craft, like sitting on your shoes in marketing and social media?
Yeah, I think there are so many opportunities to use social media to set yourself apart, especially if this is the career that you want to go into. And so I think, finding opportunities to showcase your talents through through your platforms, or through um, whatever platforms you might want to create, is a really, really great way to do it. One of my really, really good friends, Carrie DeLisi, she's a graphics designer at Marathon Digital, and she also absolutely loves the music industry. And so she went started doing this project where, like, every day for a year she was making a movie, like a movie poster inspired sort of a thing, but um, uh, pulling music video clips. So that way, that was kind of the imagery that she was working with. And just seeing over time the more connections that brought for her within the music industry, for her to be able to create posters for Broadway shows, because then all of a sudden, her company knew this is something you can do, and we didn't even know this was an option. And so I just think that's one example of it. TikTok is a whole nother world where you can really create whatever niche it is that you want. And so I think creating content around the things that are interesting to you is the best way to do it, because you're practicing, you're showing what you can do,
Mhm.
and it's also going to get you in front of more people to make those connections genuinely over time. Because I think that networking is the number one way to get into the Broadway industry, because it is this community. And so, if you're developing relationships organically with people online, then, eventually you will find somebody who needs something that you can do. And, all of those connections get to kind of come together to give you that open door.
I love that. One of my last questions for you is, you already mentioned that out of the blue you cold contacted um, this show through social media, right?
Yep.
But what is another risk that you have taken that has totally paid off?
Yeah, I think all of my biggest risks in life, I think, have been moving related. Because when I think about some of the biggest, like scariest moments in my life, it has always been moments where I'm kind of going outside of my comfort zone, and feeling potentially like worried about feeling isolated or not, involved. And so, like, before moving to New York, while living in New York, my entire first year, still like not feeling like fully at home yet, and trying to figure out what it's like also to live on your own for the first time, like out of college and stuff. And and then thinking through the decision to leave New York and to go and do that. At every single turn, there were different things that made me nervous about it, but there were always kind of, from the last move, there was always something that I could kind of look back at and be like, hey, remember when you were really terrified to go and study abroad in Sevilla, and then you ended up making a lot of friends and like staying in contact with them over years, and now you're trying to move there this year. Like, I can just kind of look back at my life and see, like, in that moment, that soothed me to be able to know that it takes time to find community, and that I should stick it out in New York, and I should, and then I did that and then learned that. And so then, as I was jumping around and being a digital nomad, I was able to reference back, like, okay, I know that, building connections is something that takes time. So it's like, again, at each stage, I'm able to kind of like reflect back on the last move. And so, I think the idea of moving has always brought excitement and like new opportunities like to mind. And I know I've talked to friends who are like, no, it brings panic, or, whatever. And so I think that's something, just based off my experience, um, I can kind of be excited about change because of my past.
I love that. That's incredible. Last question. What are your top five favorite musical theater shows?
Oh my gosh, I'm very basic, okay? So no judgment, guys, no judgment.
Not at
Okay,
all.
okay, great. The other thing is that luckily, my top two I worked on, and I genuinely, yeah, I am absolutely a huge fan of Hamilton. Like, will be rapping along to every single word in the car. Did that 2 days ago. Yeah, like, very love Hamilton, and really love Hades Town too. And then to stick with my old boss, Lynn in the Heights, also a favorite. And another one that my friend Lindsay introduced me to during that era. And then Waitress is one that I saw a lot the summer that I interned, and just like loved the music. And I think that was one of the first albums that I, on my own, kind of was like, this is the one that I really want to listen to a lot, rather than like with my friends. And did I mention that I'm a late bloomer to the prop industry? Um, and then I ever since you posted, actually, I've been thinking more and more and more about Anne Juliet. I saw it in London and just like obsessed. So glad that it's in New York too now. And so I think that's moving up there. It was just so fun. I just love fun.
And those are really fun shows,
Yeah.
really heartfelt, but really, really fun shows. And yes, we are currently, both of us are currently obsessed with Anne Juliet. I really, really want to experience that show every single day of my life. And now that you brought it up, my stretch sessions before I go to bed is with the Anne Juliet cast album.
Oh
I
my gosh.
rotate between the London and the New York cast, and I'm just like, I want it that, like doing the splits that way.
Well, first off, I desperately need to start stretching because I am an old woman and I want to stretch to that. So I'm going to need the link to the playlist.
Micayla, thank you so much for coming over. I have loved every single second of this conversation. Thank you so much for being here, for being a part of Backstage Talk. And you know how much I love you and I admire you. So thank you so much.
Oh, thank you so much. I've thrown a little Spanish te quiero. I was like, I absolutely will not do this in Spanish. In a few years, we'll circle back. But
Yes.
I am your biggest fan, and I am so honored that you asked me to be here. So thank you.
Thanks everyone for listening to this new episode of Backstage Talk. Remember to follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Backstage Talk Podcast.